is ripping.
My tummy hurts.
Green good, red bad. Hey guys, what's going on? Nick with Off the Chart Trading. I'll be doing the daily recap for Thursday, November 11th, 11/11, Make-A-Wish. I shouldn't say daily recap because there really wasn't much to talk about, so this video should actually be fairly, I guess, quick and sweet and to the point. I'm doing something a little different than I've done the previous videos. Is actually start with the profile, because I could literally just tell you how the day looked or how the day was just by looking at this. When you have, not a very big point range. I mean, we saw a little weakness into the close, but this is the epitome of a balanced day where you have time, volume, VWAP, halfback, all within a point of each other or so. I mean, right in the middle as well. Once again, that bell curve, if you remember from school and stuff, right in the middle, you have your high, your low, and most of the action in the middle, aka a balanced day, and then also aka a boring day. There wasn't really too much going on. Today is actually the first day I looked at my my order list, and today is the first day in probably weeks, if not a couple months, that I literally did nothing. Like normally I'll have a trade. Oh, I got into this, these calls 2 months ago. I'm going to get out now because they're working, or this trade's not working, so I'm going to get out, or initiate a new trade, or maybe a day trade, or just something. And my order list is empty, so it just kind of shows that there really wasn't too much going on today. And like I said, you can just look at the profile and see that all the time, volume, all the points of reference that we use for the profile, it's just right in the middle. So I'm not really expecting too much. I mean, yesterday's big difference, after that drop, you can kind of see after going out at the lows, or not really, I'm not saying what the low settlement was up here. That was during K period, but going out right here, having overnight basically build out within that range, and then even tighter, from, basically overnight from here to here, being even in tighter range, consolidation, inside day, whatever you want to call it. When you're looking at the profile, you would consider it a balanced day. And what are we doing overnight as of right now? Doing almost the exact same thing. So for me, it's kind of just hurry up and wait until we either take out 11/10's highs or take out 11/10's lows, because we could see some chop, within, maybe tomorrow is within this range as well. Unless there's news or something crazy that comes out. I'm not really expecting too much for tomorrow. We talked about it, I don't know if it was Thursday's video of last week. So yeah, just about a week ago when we were over here, I was talking about like all this space needing to get filled. Not that it needs to, but realistically it's healthy that it's not just on the one side of the screen going straight up. So we're seeing that now. Do we break a little lower, retest some of these areas, prior month high, also good amount of volume down there. We'll just have to wait and see, but I figured I'd just show that because, for those that are in the room or just, follow market profile, you see this and you're like, yeah, okay, cool. Unless there was specific news on one stock or, FDA approval or patent this or lawsuit against this company, those types of intraday plays, the market really didn't do much today. And we'll take a look at the internals after. I only have a few stocks I wanted to talk about tonight. We'll look at the internals, and then we'll see if we see anything on the ETS, which off the top of my head, I don't really think there's any ETF or sector-based plays going into tomorrow. But we can take a look. But it's funny because last video I made a comment about just calling things out, and for the indexes, the Russell definitely was the strongest today. I think at the close was up about 1% or so, give or take. I made a comment about IWM calls on on Tuesday's video as how it works, and sure enough, mentioned that very early in the day, saw that relative strength in the Russell small caps. I always call it like risk on trades. And we actually did have a few members that were able to make some money on IWM calls. I think Sean made like $250, so basically a quarter membership in a matter of an hour. Can't beat that. So anyway, I just wanted to show those points of references. Just keep an eye on. I'm not expecting anything crazy tomorrow, but obviously it's the markets. Anything can happen. But I'm kind of just hurry up and wait until we break higher or break lower. We'll just have to see. Right now it's kind of a balancing act, but I figured I'd show the profile or start with the profile because nothing really happened today. You can see, we opened up, went up like a tick or two, came down, and then just spent most of the day in the middle of this range, and we'll just have to see how it goes. But figured I would show that and just give you an idea of what I was looking at, structurally speaking, just balance, sideways action, and just waiting for it to shoot one way or the other. All right, exit out of that. One thing I wanted to show, Blink had earnings today. It wasn't an amazing report, but I think it was either revenue or growth, or there was some some meat on the bones that caused it to go as high as 41.40, 41.44 after hours, and then came back down a little bit. I think the expected move was about $5 or so, $4 if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a look. Trade. Fun fact for you guys that use Toast, you can look over here in the top right of the screen. You'll see the IV and then also that plus and minus sign, and it will basically show by the end of that week, specifically since it's today going into Friday, that they market makers were assuming that there'd be either a $5 move higher or a $5 move lower. And we did see that out of the gate, because I think it closed around $35 and ended up going up to 41 and change, and then came back down. So I think it closed up just about $2. So if we open up around there, I'm actually going to look for some Blink calls for a couple of reasons. One, the report was good, it's good. But when you have something, I think like 1/3 of the entire float is short, and there's really not that many shares, you have a recipe of a potential short squeeze. So I talk about this occasionally because there's been a few times that we're early to these ideas and they end up, could be a week, could be a month. Actually, I just thought of another stock I'm going to add to my little list right here. I have to write it down because I have the attention span of a squirrel. So if I don't, I'll just get distracted and forget about it. So I'll add one more to the list. For that, I just made myself remember one of the other trades I'm in that I want to go over. That's kind of similar to that train of thought, where whether it's earnings, news, whatever it will be, if there's decent short interest, it almost is adding fuel to that fire, or it's exaggerated, where let's just say, stock has, a very small short float, maybe 5%, 10%, and it has great earnings. Maybe it goes up $2, but because if the short interest is like 30 or 40%, that move might get exaggerated, especially if you have Reddit and Discords and the YouTubers and all these other people potentially talking about it tonight. Blink might be one that sets up nicely for tomorrow. So what you could look at, and obviously these will be adjusted tomorrow, is potentially some lottos. Depending on where it opens, obviously options don't start trading till 9:30, and it could move one way or the other before that. So in a perfect world, it's around the 37 area or so, and these prices aren't too crazy, because obviously they'll adjust tomorrow because Theta's probably pretty decent. Look at Theta Decay on all these, because they do expire tomorrow. So good thing, not to mention Theta, but also the IV crush, especially if it doesn't really move one way or the other. It might work to our benefit that we aren't positioned and that we could potentially get in cheap, relatively speaking. So there might be a setup in Blink for tomorrow, mainly off a potential small short squeeze. We'll just have to see how, it's one of those play it by ears, but I could potentially see Blink heading higher into tomorrow and potentially next week. Maybe there's upgrades, maybe there's some other coverage or something that could, we'll see how it opens. I'm leaning towards a lotto play, meaning, I'll buy calls at the money, maybe a little in the money. It just all depends. It all, has to be within my risk parameters for a trade like that, where I'm, hence the word lotto. You buy the lotto ticket, you're not really expecting to win, but if you do, great. Obviously you don't want to buy a million lotto tickets. So you just buy one, risk X amount, and either it works or it doesn't. So that's mainly how I look at lottos in the room. So we'll see how it opens. If it opens up at $40-$50, unless there's a legitimate short squeeze happening, I won't play it. Maybe early, if it looks like it's going to start moving, I might buy shares, maybe buy 300, 400, 500 shares, mainly meant for a day trade for tomorrow. But I'll talk about it tomorrow in the morning just to see how it is. But that's kind of number one on my list. Also, I know it's not the first time I've mentioned this one, especially if you guys are members. EVgo's been that's been my main EV charge play. I think it's the future. I think as EVs, the excitement of Rivian, Lucid, Tesla, all this stuff just keeps going up. Just like a regular car, cars are great. We're selling a lot of cars. Well, how are you going to get around? Well, you need gas. So, a correlated play, a sympathy play, if you will, would be if, there's more cars, we need more gas stations. So we literally just copy and paste that mindset. We have a lot more cars and quote unquote not many gas stations, which means EV stations. So I think the growth and the potential for a lot of these names is there. I picked EVgo mainly because it was the biggest of the fast charging network. Now, granted, ChargePoint could easily catch up. They definitely have more market share. I would rate EVgo as a number 2 or 3 play. But the fact that my biggest issue, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for a majority of people when it comes to EVs, is charge time and range, anxiety. So, if you're only getting 200 miles per charge and it takes 2 hours to charge, 3 hours to charge, that's going to stop people from potentially making the switch. But if you have a car like a Lucid Air that charges relatively quick and you have, the faster charging stations, I think that's a good mix where you have 500 miles in range and then also have, you're only charging for an hour or whatever the case may be, or, 1 hour and you get, 300 miles, you're going into Whole Foods or, eventually Walmarts and Targets. I think charging stations are going to be in the front of every major retail outlet, in the next over 10, 15 years. You go shopping, you come back, your car's, 200-300 miles. I'll give my family as a perfect example. We don't really drive that far. So if we were to go to Whole Foods and we're there for 30 minutes and we come out and we got the equivalent of 100 miles or whatever, that'd be fine for us for probably a week. And obviously if we go shopping once a week, we'll never have to worry about, running out of battery. Again, when you travel and so forth, which we plan on doing next week, that's a whole different, thing. But anyway, you get the idea. I think it's a solid play. I don't know about chasing in here at 1940, 1950, a little higher after hours here. I'm in over here. My average is like 820, and I've been averaging down. I think I talked about it last week. Having shares at $20, it drops and averaging down. One of these spikes where it goes up. I guess it was over here to 16. I sold in the low 16s, got back my 2,500 shares, and then waited. I did that 1250 calls, which I kind of wish, hindsight, last video I talked about was in the 13, 14 range, and then here it is at 19 and change, so probably be at 20 tomorrow. So probably would have been nice to hold those calls, but it's all hindsight. But anyway, looking pretty solid. I'm looking for these to maintain. You add in the infrastructure bill, you add in the whole green thing, you add in just EVs blowing up, and you have this company actually having a solid report where they're expected to lose 8 cents and they actually make 9 cents. That's why the stock has doubled. So I was very patient during all this pullback and stuff. Had a plan, and here we are. So I really like EVgo. I think it heads higher, but as of right now, I definitely would not add to it. CODX, I took this one. Sometimes I'll call them speculative plays. So it's kind of in the ballpark of a lotto in a sense that I'm not risking that much money, but if the idea works, it could be a decent payday. CODX, we played a lot during, all through here, and the stock went up to $30-something, getting in sometimes at like $1 or $2 right when the whole COVID thing started. The tests and the vaccine plays and stuff in the room was a nice rinse and repeater. Haven't really played it lately, but with that whole government mandate, if I'm not mistaken, but if you have more than 100 employees, they have to be vaccinated, or you have to do the testing every week. I think a name like this might benefit from that. You have that squeeze setting up. It did have earnings. They did beat, and they are up a little after hours. As you can see, it was just $10 a little while ago. Bid ask is like 15, 20 cents wide, but we'll see where it opens tomorrow. I'd love for it to open above $10. If it does, I might get out. I have the January $7 strike. So we'll see how it opens. I'm sure if it opens around this, it should be a decent trade. We'll see if there's follow through. If it can break above its 200 and hold tomorrow, I might end up holding it a little longer since I do have time. I either have January or February. I can't remember off the top of my head. But nevertheless, nice squeeze setting up. Earnings will, if it does open up somewhere over here, this squeeze will probably fire along. And traditionally speaking, we would have follow through with that. These stocks were amazing all of last year and have not really done much to be expected. They were COVID-based plays, and they have pulled back. But I had, one that it was beat down, had a squeeze setting up, had earnings coming up, and you have that mandate and everything potentially coming out. I thought it was a nice recipe for a speculative play, which is once again in the realm of a lotto where, hey, if this does happen or they do make it a mandate or, whatever the case may be, and, Walmart orders, 5 billion or, whatever the case, like a big packing order, whatever, these stocks could start moving again, especially after being beat down over the last, basically this whole year. So the concept of buying low and trying to follow through with a plan. So we'll see how this one opens. If I open up decently and it holds, I might hold it longer since I do have time. If not, I'll probably just take the profit and go. Some of my other top plays that have been beat up and they're nice to finally see. Evolved Technologies. Think of it as a smart metal detector, backed by Bill Gates and I think Peyton Manning as well, oddly enough, which is good because I think Tennessee Titans just signed a contract with them. I could see these in every government building, every school, anywhere where a good amount of people are going to be, especially with shootings and all this other stuff going on. I think it's a smart play. It's a solid company. They just had earnings as well, and they were actually really good. Look at that. They were expected to lose 13 cents, and they made 15 cents, and their revenue growth was like 500% or something ridiculous. So these are names that I personally like that you probably watching have never heard of. That's what I like. I like getting in at $5, $6, $7, and then you're if it's a long trade for 2 years or whatever, you buy leaps. If you're like me, you buy shares and just sit back. Doesn't mean it's always going to work, but it's nice when it slowly starts hitting CNBC and the talking heads and the little tickers on the bottom. You see this ticker and it's at $20. Well, that's when everyone's starting to talk about it and see what's going on. But you've been in since $5 or $6. So I started buying this earlier with a lot of these SPACs that I liked. A little under $10. I've started buying in the 9s, and I got my average down to pretty close to this. I think my average is like 770, 780. So I'm pretty close to break even, and I was pounding the table in the room talking about this stock and at this price, like the risk reward as you get closer to the bottom, the chances of you end up getting really hurt, unlikely. So once again, I've only put about not even 1% of my account on this, so it's not too crazy if it doesn't end up working out, but it is nice to get confirmation that their revenue growth, they beat earnings, everything looks amazing, and we'll see if there's continuation, maybe there's exposure, more broadly speaking, so these names pick up, like an EVgo, like a Lucid and stuff. So that's been my strategy this year over the last probably 5 or 6 months, is buy growth stocks that have been beat up, and just try to, the simplest thing is buying low, holding it, and selling it high. But most of them I plan on holding for a longer term, because I think if it's a newer technology or something that I see being big in the future, I'd rather just hold on to it than regret, oh man, I had shares at X and now the stock's at Y. I'm trying to avoid that because I do pick a lot of good names and unfortunately never see them through. So I am trying to change that. I guess that would have been a 2021 New Year's resolution. Just to try to hold my idea, especially seeing Blink. We just looked at Blink. Guess who had shares of Blink at $1.80? NEO at $4, Mara at $2, Riot at $3, VUZI at $2. Like, the list goes on. MVIS at $3. All those plays back last year saying, oh, these are great long-term holds, and I didn't hold them. And so here we are this year. I'm trying to do better at that kind of stuff. But anyway, this is a good one. Market Forge, you guys have probably heard of. That's another 3D printing play I'm in. This one I started buying, I forgot, was it A1 when it was $12-13? So my average is actually pretty bad in this one. My average is just under $10 at like $9.80, $9.60. But this is a solid 3D printing. Their earnings also, if I'm not mistaken, were pretty solid too. Once again, expected to lose money. They made money. Their growth numbers were really good. And not a huge move today, but at least it's going in the right direction. And it's another one I was talking about in the room at, hey, you got an IRA, you got a 401, you got an account that you just buy shares and don't look at. Buying Market Forge, buying Evolve, buying EVgo at 7, buying Lucid at 16, 17. Chances are, if you don't look at it or touch it for 5 or 10 years, you're going to be handsomely rewarded. Just like a lot of the big names, they weren't big 10, 15 years ago. They became big. So what is the next? You always hear the next Amazon, the next Tesla, the next this. It's basically just what is the next stock that's going to potentially go up thousands of %. And none of us know, or, I wouldn't be doing videos. I'd be on my space yacht with Elon Musk, hovering around Mars. But anyway, the last one I wanted to look at, those two I definitely would checking out. Root. The reason I brought this up is high short interest. It's been beat up. It has a squeeze setting up. I think their earnings were not as bad. So they're expected to lose almost 70 cents. They only lost 53, so only. But it actually had a pretty solid day, and you can see the amount of volume traded a day. You haven't seen that. That's pretty close. I'm not going to check to see. I'm just going by the blue bars in the background, but good amount of volume today. So with high short interest, decent report, whatever else they talked about on the call, if there's that follow through, this is good. I have a trade in this, and I got in when it was like $6, $7, and I think I bought the $5 strike for March of next year. So I still got plenty of time, 5 months or so, to see if this one plays out. But if the squeeze fire is long, these names, if anybody's followed the whole AMC craze and GameStop and all that stuff, it doesn't take much for these things to move. where they're at $3 or $4 and no one's talking about it. And then when you find out about it on that YouTube video or something else, or this one, it's normally at 30 or $40. And by then you're either chasing, you have FOMO. So sometimes it's nice to get in when something's like this for a potential move higher. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. But those, once again, is another speculative play that, it may end up working out. We'll just have to see. Let me see. Internal screen, like I said, nothing really too crazy today. Cumulative tick kind of fell apart towards the close. VIX picked up. Breath ratio is positive, going out near the highs on the vol spread. Pretty neutral day for overall action. You can see a pretty healthy mix of closes above the zero line and below the zero line for the tick. Put call went back up. I made a comment about that in the room. It was at like 0.31. Was it yesterday, I think? Or no, the day before. I think it was Tuesday when I did the video. I don't know if I mentioned it in here, or at least in the room I did, that it was very low. And that, I made a comment about the whole selling thing, and sure enough, yesterday we did end up seeing a little bit of selling. I didn't put any short position on because in my head, it didn't feel, the tempo of the market was not incredibly bearish. So I didn't really feel the need to hold on to any, put position. Have to keep an eye on the dollar. I'm not liking that it is jumping higher. Keep an eye on gold. Oddly enough, they've been, it's kind of moving lower here now, but interesting to see gold and the dollar move higher together. Yen's dropping, so that's good. So yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to some of this stuff. So it's just kind of just wait and see how it plays out. Not really seeing anything in the indexes out of the ordinary. Like I said, we saw a little selling pressure into yesterday, and then for at least the Russell, it was mostly bought up. That's what I was talking about today. Almost on my trend-based candles, basically. I just do like a majority rule, and what color do I see? Green. So something to look at and just kind of eyeball and see. Once again, members do end up getting all these indicators that I use for free. So that's something to think about as well. We don't paywall or do anything like that. Let's take a look. ETFs, like I said, for the sectors, everything's kind of sideways. I'm not really seeing anything out of the ordinary that I would think of a continuation. I know I mentioned Boeing back over here into last week's, and there was good follow through with that for a couple days, and CAT and all that kind of stuff. That party kind of seems to slow down a little bit. I'm not really seeing anything that tells me to go long or short or one thing or the other. Everything's kind of just sideways, coming up a little bit. I always say keep an eye on the utilities and staples for potential pullbacks. If everything's sideways, let me do that off screen real quick. I just want to go on our site. I wanted to end the video on something real quick, so I'll multitask. But I'm not really seeing anything too crazy. But like I was saying, for utilities and the staples, if you notice that trend higher, like if today it was higher and stuff, that's when you kind of want to be. If everything looks sideways, but you see utilities and staples heading higher, just be aware of that, because that is potentially the first crack that money is rotating into quote unquote safer things. And you don't want to be late to the party. You want to either close the position, not necessarily put a short on, but if money's going into utilities, think Duke, think NextEra, think is it Dominion or whatever, think those types of names, or the actual ETF itself. Or for staples, I don't know why Coca-Cola or Pepsi. When I think of staples, I think that's funny, but Walmart, Target, stuff like that, because money might be rotating into those. And it's always good to be ahead of the curve when it comes to that type of stuff. But anyway, what I was going to get at is, especially being a holiday, mentioned that earlier. I think that's another reason why, not to be all scatterbrained, but I think that's another reason why it was a balanced day. The bond market was closed because of the holiday. So it's a safe bet that there just wasn't that much volume. Maybe some people didn't even come into work today. So that might have been another reason we had, fairly light volume today overall. I'm not sure if I mentioned that earlier, but that was one of the reasons I was thinking. But it being Veterans Day, if there's any veterans listening, we do appreciate you here. And we also want to give a thank you. So if you go to our website, Off the Chart Trading, you click email, you just let us know, which branch you served, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the Army, the Navy, the military. I mean, first responders, if you're a nurse, a doctor, any of that type of stuff. We definitely want to, we appreciate you, your community appreciates you, and the least we can do is give you a discount. So if that's something that interests you, by all means, just go to Off the Chart Trading, scroll down a little bit, and it's right here. Special thank you, and then just click email. And then we'll get that. We'll get the link to you, go over all the rates and stuff. And if it's something you want to take advantage of, by all means, there's no contracts. You can cancel anytime. But just to be able to check us out to see if this is something you are interested in. Obviously, we're live Monday to Friday. We got our Facebook group, which I'll put the link in the description. We have Slack, webinars, the whole shebang bang. So yes, I did say the whole shebang bang. I think it's a perfect way to end the video. I actually ended up going to 25 minutes. As you can tell, I'm quite the talker. I went from not really having much to talk about and almost talking for 30 minutes. So yeah. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful night, and I will catch you on the next one.